My name is Remy Dawson. On the night I turned 12 during the worst lake effect blizzard Buffalo had seen in years, both my parents shoved me out the front door and locked it behind me. All because they believed my older sister. I was wearing nothing but a thin sweater and sneakers, no phone, no coat. Snow already up to my knees. My sister leaned against the doorframe, looked me dead in the eyes through the frosted glass and smirked. "Happy birthday. Try to stay alive out there." The deadbolt clicked. That sound still echoes in my head. I stumbled 7 blocks through whiteout conditions, wind-screaming fingers numb, thinking this was how I was going to die on my own birthday. Every step felt heavier until I collapsed in the middle of the street, snow swallowing me whole. Then headlights cut through the storm. A black SUV I thought I recognized slowed down right in front of me. The door opened. And what happened next turned everything I ever knew about my family upside down. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do by the people who were supposed to protect you, drop it in the comments. City state, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I read every single one, and trust me, some of your stories are about to feel a lot less crazy after you hear the rest of mine. Stick around. You're gonna want to see how this ends. Let me paint the picture of the years that led up to that night so none of this feels like it came out of nowhere. Our house sat on a quiet corner of Delaware Avenue on the west side of Buffalo, gray siding, black shutters, the kind of place that looks warm from the street until you step inside. Mom Valerie had been promoted to branch manager at M&T Bank when I was 7, which meant she controlled every penny that came in or went out. She kept color-coded spreadsheets for groceries, tracked Dad's fuel receipts down to the cent, and made sure we all knew who paid the mortgage. Dad Travis was gone more than he was home. He drove a Freightliner for a regional hauling company running loads of steel and auto parts as far south as Texas, as far east as Maine. When he pulled the rig into the driveway after weeks away, he looked 10 years older than when he left. He'd hand Mom the envelope of cash and per diem kiss the top of my head if I was close enough, then disappear into the recliner with a beer and the TV clicker. Arguing with Mom about anything wasn't worth the fight. He learned that early. Peyton came into the world 4 years before me and never let anyone forget she arrived first. Perfect grades, perfect smile, perfect everything. Teachers loved her. Coaches fought to have her on their teams. Mom bragged about her at the bank, kept a framed photo of Peyton in cap and gown from kindergarten graduation on her desk, like it was a college diploma. If something good happened to Peyton, the whole house celebrated. If something good happened to me, it usually got twisted into a lecture about not getting a big head. I stopped expecting fairness a long time ago. When the dog chewed Mom's favorite shoes somehow, it was because I left the gate open. When money went missing from Mom's purse, Peyton cried first and pointed at me. Dad would just sigh and say, "Remy, apologize and let's move on." I apologized a lot. Grandpa George and Grandma Diane lived 75 miles east in Rochester, right off Lake Ontario. When I was little, they came every other weekend bringing Wegman subs and quarters for the arcade at the mall. Then the visits slowed. Grandpa's trucking company started doing better. He bought a second warehouse, hired more drivers, spent more time on paperwork. Grandma said they were giving Mom and Dad space to raise their family. I didn't understand what that meant until I got older. What never stopped were the Sunday night video calls. Grandma would prop the phone on the kitchen island so I could see them both. She'd show me whatever was blooming in her backyard, even in winter. She'd point out the cardinals at the feeder. Grandpa always asked the same 3 questions. How's school treating you? You eating enough? Anything you need? You call us direct, okay? His eyes got sharper every year, like he was searching my face for bruises I never let show. They mailed cards for everything. Halloween, Valentine's, the first snowfall. Thick envelopes with $20 bills tucked inside for ice cream or whatever makes you smile. Mom intercepted most of them. She'd read the note out loud in a fake sweet voice, then fold the money into her own wallet for safekeeping. Once I heard her on the phone telling Grandma to stop sending cash, that it was confusing the girls about who provided for them. Grandma's reply was too quiet for me to hear, but Mom hung up fast. That's when I bought the black and white composition notebook at Rite Aid with my own birthday money from Grandpa. I was 9. I started writing everything down, dates, what was said, what really happened. The pages filled up slow at first, then faster. I hid it under the loose floorboard in my closet. The one nobody knew squeaked. It wasn't about revenge, it was about sanity. Proof that I wasn't imagining the way the house tilted toward Peyton and away from me every single day. Dad noticed sometimes when he was home. He'd catch me staring at nothing and ask if I was okay. I always said yes. He'd nod, ruffle my hair, and go back to watching football. Mom told him I was dramatic. He believed her. It was easier. I never showed the notebook to anyone. Not the guidance counselor who pulled me aside in 5th grade because I fell asleep in class. Not Mason, who lived 7 blocks north and had been my best friend since we were 5. Not even Grandpa and Grandma, though sometimes on those Sunday calls I wanted to hold it up to the camera and scream. I just kept writing. Quietly. Carefully. Waiting for a day I couldn't name yet. The countdown to my 12th birthday felt like walking toward a guillotine I could already see. Grandma Diane's package arrived 4 days early, the way it always did, so the mail wouldn't ruin the actual day. This time, the box was smaller, wrapped in silver paper with a real satin ribbon. Inside was a thin silver locket oval, old-fashioned, the front covered by a piece of real glass. Tucked under the cotton was a note in her perfect cursive. One day you'll fill this with memories only you choose. Keep it close until then. All my love, Grandma. I hid it in the very back of my sock drawer under the winter pairs nobody ever touched in summer. I should have known better. Peyton had a 6th sense for anything that wasn't meant for her. She came into my room Tuesday afternoon looking for a charger and started pulling drawers. I walked in just as she lifted the sweater and spotted the silver glint. Her eyes went narrow, then wide, then narrow again. That look I knew too well. By Thursday, the locket was in pieces. I found it on the kitchen island after school, glass face cracked in a spiderweb chain-tangled photo compartment bent open like someone had pried it with a screwdriver. Peyton sat at the table doing homework, tears already rolling, cheeks blotchy. Mom stood at the sink, phone pressed to her ear, talking fast about missing deposits and a surprise audit scheduled for next week. Dad had gotten home the night before from a run to Laredo, still in the same flannel shirt, beard, scruffy eyes bloodshot from 30 straight hours behind the wheel. He'd lost a long-term contract because new federal logging rules cut his hours, which meant less money, which meant Mom's mood was a live wire. Peyton looked up the second I stepped into the kitchen and let out a fresh wail. She broke it. I only wanted to try it on, and Remy freaked out and slammed it on the counter. Mom ended the call mid-sentence. What is this now? I opened my mouth, but Peyton was faster. She held up the ruined locket like evidence in court. Grandma sent it to me early because I'm older, but Remy got jealous and, that is a lie, I started. Mom's hand shot out and grabbed my upper arm so hard her nails dug in. Jealousy. Again. Your grandmother spends her own money on something nice and you destroy it. Dad rubbed the bridge of his nose. Val, maybe we should all just... No, Travis. Not this time. Mom dragged me by the arm into the dining room, voice climbing with every step. She was yelling about respect, about ingratitude, about how she worked 60-hour weeks so we could have a roof, while I acted like a spoiled brat. Dad trailed behind, trying to play peacemaker until Mom spun on him too. You're never here. You don't see what I deal with. I tried one more time. I didn't touch it. It was in my drawer this morning. Mom shoved me backward. I stumbled into the china cabinet, rattling the glasses. Dad reached out not to pull her off, but to steady me so she could keep screaming in my face. His grip on my shoulders was heavy, tired, final. You want to act like an animal? Mom's voice cracked. Fine. Go cool off. The front door was already open. Wind screamed down the street, hurling snow sideways. The weather app had been flashing red all day. Lake effect warning, whiteout conditions, wind chills 20 below. Dad hesitated half a heartbeat. Mom didn't. She pushed me across the threshold. Dad's hands followed, guiding, almost gentle but still pushing. My sneakers hit the icy porch and slid. The door slammed behind me. I heard the deadbolt slide home with a metallic thunk that sounded exactly like the end of the world. I pounded once, twice. No answer. The porch light flicked off. Through the frosted glass, I saw Peyton's shape glide forward. She pressed her palm flat against the pane right in front of my face and smiled the coldest smile I'd ever seen. Then the curtains closed and every light in the house went dark. I couldn't feel my feet anymore, and that was the first thing that scared me worse than the cold itself. The snow wasn't falling so much as being hurled sideways by a wind that came straight off the lake at 50+ miles an hour. Every breath scraped my throat raw. Street signs were invisible. The only way I knew I was still on the sidewalk was the occasional crunch of ice under my sneakers, and the sudden drop when I stepped off a curb I couldn't see. Snow packed into the cuffs of my jeans melted against my skin, then froze again into stiff tubes around my calves. I kept moving north because Mason lived 7 blocks that way, and it was the only address I had left in the world. I counted them the way drowning people count strokes: 1 block, 2 blocks, 3. By 4, my teeth were chattering so hard I tasted blood where I'd bitten my tongue. My eyelashes froze together. I had to pry them apart with numb fingers just to keep my eyes open. At block 5, the wind shifted and slammed me sideways into a chain-link fence. The metal burned cold through my sweater. I hung there for a second, forehead pressed to the links, trying to remember what it felt like to be warm. My knees buckled. I went down hard knees first, then the rest of me face-planting into a drift that swallowed everything up to my shoulders. I tried to push up. My arms wouldn't hold. The snow was soft, almost comforting. Part of my brain whispered that lying down would be easier. Just close my eyes. Just rest. That's when the headlights appeared. They were faint at first, 2 yellow smudges in the white blur moving slow, deliberate. An engine growled low over the wind. I thought I was hallucinating until the tires crunched to a stop 10 feet away. A big black GMC Yukon, the same one that had picked me up from elementary school on the rare weekends Grandpa and Grandma came to town. The passenger door flew open against the wind. Grandma Diane fought it all the way, boots hitting the ground, running coat flapping, open scarf whipping behind her like a flag. Remy. She dropped into the snow beside me and pulled me up into her arms so fast my frozen hood cracked. Her coat was real wool, thick and warm, and she wrapped it around both of us while rocking me like I was 5 years old again. "I've got you, baby. I've got you." Grandpa George was already out the driver's side door, still open, interior light, cutting a gold tunnel through the storm. He moved faster than I'd ever seen him, circling the hood boots, punching through the drifts. When he reached us, he didn't speak at first, just cupped the back of my head with one gloved hand and pressed his forehead to mine for a second, eyes closed, breathing hard. Then he said low and steady, "Nobody lays a hand on my granddaughter again. Not ever." Together they lifted me. Grandma kept her arms locked around my ribs while Grandpa took most of my weight, half carrying, half dragging me to the Yukon. The heat inside hit like a wall. Grandma yanked off her cashmere scarf and wound it around my face and neck 3 times, tucking the ends inside my collar. Grandpa threw the SUV into drive and eased forward tires, spinning once before the 4-wheel drive bit. They had been parked 3 blocks south with the engine running for almost an hour. They told me later they left Rochester right after lunch, planning to confront Mom and Dad face to face with an envelope they'd been carrying for 3 weeks. They wanted to talk in private first, so they circled the block a few times, then parked where they could see the front door without being obvious. They saw the argument through the windows, saw the door open, saw me get pushed out, saw it slam. Grandma was already reaching for the handle when I collapsed. Grandpa drove straight to the Marriott Niagara on the waterfront. They had booked the suite that morning under Grandma's maiden name, so no one at home would know they were in town. He carried me through the lobby himself because my legs still wouldn't work. Grandma never let go of my hand, squeezing every few seconds like she needed proof I was really there. The elevator ride up was quiet except for the sound of snow melting off our clothes and dripping onto the carpet. That same night, in the warm hotel suite overlooking the frozen Niagara River, everything I thought I knew about my family shattered for good. Grandma sat me on the edge of the king bed and peeled off my soaked clothes like I was 5 again. She wrapped me in 2 heated blankets straight from the warmer the hotel kept in the bathroom closet, then made me drink hot chocolate so thick it coated my tongue. Grandpa stood at the window with his back to us at first, hands clasped behind him, watching the storm rage against the glass. When he finally turned around, his face was harder than I'd ever seen it. "We need to talk, kiddo," he said, voice low. "All of it. Tonight." He pulled a chair close and sat so our knees almost touched. Grandma took the spot on my other side, one hand never leaving mine. Grandpa reached into the inside pocket of his coat and took out a thick manila envelope sealed with red wax, the kind lawyers use. "We've been suspicious for years," he started. "Peyton doesn't look a thing like Travis. Not the eyes. Not the bone structure. Nothing. Your dad has that same Dawson jaw every male in our line has had since the Civil War. Peyton never did." Grandma squeezed my fingers. "We didn't want to believe it either, sweetheart. But the older she got, the less she looked like family." Grandpa continued. "Last time you two came to Rochester, remember the 4th of July barbecue? Peyton left her hairbrush in the guest bathroom. Diane kept it. We sent the bristles to a private lab in Albany, along with a sample from me, and a cheek swab I got from you, the Christmas before when you were sleeping. I'm sorry, but we had to know." He broke the wax seal and slid out 3 sets of papers stamped with the lab's letterhead. At the top of the first page, in bold, 99.99998% probability of no biological relationship between Peyton Bennett and Travis Dawson. The second page showed 0 shared markers between Peyton and Grandpa. The third was mine, 99.9999% grandparent-grandchild match on both sides. Grandma's voice cracked. "Your mom was pregnant before she ever married your dad. By about 4 weeks, according to the dates we pieced together. She hid it from everyone." Grandpa leaned forward. "We got the final report 8 days ago. That's why we drove in today. We were going to sit Valerie and Travis down, lay the papers on the table, and demand the truth in front of you girls. We never imagined." He stopped, jaw tight. "We never imagined they'd throw their own daughter, our only real grandchild, into a blizzard." He opened the second folder. Inside was a thick trust document, dozens of pages, all dated almost 2 years earlier. The letterhead read, "Victor Langford S. Skimmersham, Langford and Associates, Buffalo, New York." At the top, the George and Diane Dawson Irrevocable Trust. Grandpa tapped the page. 2 years ago, we rewrote everything. The company Dawson Freight Lines, the investment accounts, the house in Rochester, the lake cottage. All of it, currently valued at $5.3 million after taxes and debts, goes into this trust. The sole beneficiary is Remy Elizabeth Dawson. I stared at the words, not understanding. "There's a trigger clause," he explained. "Victor wrote it special. The moment the beneficiary is subjected to abandonment or endangerment by the custodial parents, defined as being forced from the home without adequate provision for safety, the trust activates immediately. No probate. No waiting until we pass. The funds, the company shares the real estate titles. Everything transfers to you the same day the clause is invoked." Grandma brushed hair from my forehead. "We added that clause because we were already scared for you, baby. We just never thought we'd have to use it while we were still breathing." Grandpa kept going, voice steady, like he was reading a contract instead of rewriting my entire life. "Victor has been on standby since the results came back. He's downstairs in the lobby right now with a notary and 2 witnesses. As of 30 minutes ago, when your parents locked that door and left you in a level 3 blizzard, the abandonment clause triggered. The trust is yours. Right now. Irrevocable. He pulled out one more document, a temporary guardianship order already signed by a family court judge in Erie County, effective immediately. You're coming home with us tonight, permanently. Your mom and dad will be served papers in the morning. And 3 days from now, at the company's 50th anniversary gala we've been planning for a year, we're making everything public. The DNA, the trust, all of it. On stage. With every relative, every employee, and every local news station in Western New York watching. Grandma kissed my temple. No more hiding. No more pretending. You're a Dawson. The only Dawson left who carries the name forward. And we're done letting anyone hurt you. I sat there wrapped in blankets, clutching the papers, feeling the heat finally reach my bones, while the last pieces of the family I thought I had crumbled into nothing. 3 days later, the grand ballroom of the Buffalo Marriott Niagara was packed wall to wall for the 50th anniversary celebration of Dawson Freight Lines. The event had been locked in for 6 months. Gold and navy banners hung from the rafters. Vintage photos of Grandpa's first Peterbilt lined the walls, and every truck driver, dispatcher, and mechanic who had ever worn the company logo was dressed in their Sunday best. Local television crews from WGRZ and Spectrum News were already live because a Western New York company hitting half a century was legitimate news, especially one that employed 400 people between Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. Grandpa had simply moved the program forward 1 hour and added a few slides to the presentation. I stood backstage in a navy velvet dress Grandma picked out, clutching a small leather folio Victor Langford had handed me that morning. My grandparents flanked me like sentries. Grandpa wore the same charcoal suit he got married in 52 years ago. Grandma's diamonds caught every spotlight. At exactly 7:30, the house lights dimmed, and Grandpa walked to the podium alone. The room quieted instantly. He didn't waste time on jokes or nostalgia. Most of you know me as the guy who started with one truck and a prayer. He began voice carrying clear over the sound system. Tonight, I'm here as a grandfather who's done playing games with the truth. He clicked the remote. The first slide appeared, a blown-up DNA report, the lab logo huge, the conclusion circled in red. 3 weeks ago, we received conclusive genetic proof that my son Travis's first child, Peyton Bennett, is not biologically his. A collective inhale sucked half the air out of the room. Grandpa clicked again. Old emails from Valerie to an ex-boyfriend named Kyle Morrison filled the screen, time-stamped 17 years earlier. Phrases like "I'm keeping it, he'll never know," and "weddings in 4 weeks, everything's handled" glowed in black and white. He clicked once more. The trust document. My name in 72-point font across the top. Effective 3 nights ago under Clause 7. 3 of the George and Diane Dawson, irrevocable trust, full ownership of Dawson Freight Lines, all subsidiary companies, real estate holdings and liquid assets, current valuation $5,300,000, transferred immediately and irrevocably to my only biological grandchild, Remy Elizabeth Dawson. Cameras flashed like lightning. Phones came out. Someone in the back dropped a glass. It shattered loud enough for the microphone to catch. That was when Grandpa turned and gestured toward the wings. I walked out on legs that felt borrowed. The applause was scattered at first, then thunderous as employees realized who I was. I took my place beside him. Grandma joined us, hand on my shoulder. Across the ballroom near the main doors, Valerie, Travis, and Peyton stood frozen in a cluster. They had arrived 20 minutes earlier after receiving certified letters marked mandatory attendance. A state matter signed by Victor Langford. Security had escorted them to reserved seats in the front row. Valerie's face was chalk white under the ballroom chandeliers. Travis looked like he'd aged 10 years since the blizzard. Peyton kept shaking her head, mouthing "No, no, no." Grandpa raised a hand and the room fell silent again. "Travis," he said, voice gentle for the first time. You were lied to for 17 years. I'm sorry you're finding out like this, son. But lies have consequences. He clicked one final time. A live feed of the trust transfer confirmation appeared time-stamped that morning by Chase Private Client Services and the Erie County Surrogates Court. My signature, shaky but legal, sat right above the notary seal. Valerie shot to her feet. This is insane. You can't just... Two security officers were already moving down the aisle. Victor Langford rose from the front table, calm as winter, and spoke just loud enough for the microphones to catch. Mrs. Bennett Dawson, the transfer is complete and court recorded. Any attempt to interfere will be considered contempt. Valerie's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Travis just stared at the screen, then at me, eyes glassy. He didn't say a word. Grandpa turned back to the crowd. Remy starts as majority owner effective immediately. I'll stay on as chairman for transition, but the future of this company now belongs to the only Dawson left who carries the blood and the name. He placed the ceremonial keys, an oversized novelty set made for the anniversary, into my hands. The room erupted. Drivers I'd known since I was in diapers stood on chairs whistling. Cameras zoomed in so tight I could see my own reflection in the lenses. Peyton tried to bolt. A uniformed officer caught her elbow before she made it 3 steps. Valerie collapsed back into her chair, hands over her face. Travis never moved. Grandpa leaned down to the microphone one last time. Family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up when the storm hits. Tonight we honor the truth, and we protect what's ours. He wrapped an arm around my shoulders and the spotlight bathed us in white, while 500 people cheered for the 12-year-old girl who had just become the richest kid in Erie County. The moment Grandpa finished speaking, the ballroom still rang with applause and camera shutters. I stepped forward before anyone could move. "May I?" I asked quietly into the microphone. The room hushed so fast you could hear ice clinking in glasses across the hall. Grandpa gave me a small nod and handed me the clicker. I pressed once. The screen behind me filled with a Venmo transaction history screenshot, Peyton's full name at the top. Rows of $250 and $500 payments labeled AP Calc Tutoring SIT Prep Essay Review, all flowing to an account belonging to a known local fixer who'd been banned from 3 school districts. The dates lined up perfectly with every A Peyton ever earned in a class she bragged about never studying for. Click. A forged volunteer hour log from the local animal shelter, timestamps photoshopped, signed by a supervisor who retired 2 years earlier. The shelter's official letter denying Peyton had ever completed more than 8 hours sat right beside it. Click. An email thread Peyton accidentally airdropped to my laptop freshman year when she was trying to send it to a friend. Subject line: How I basically already got into Cornell, LOL. Inside screenshots of her Common App essay, written by a $20,000 college consultant service in Manhattan, plus a running list titled Remy's Faults to Bring Up If Anyone Asks Why I'm an Only Child in Interviews. The ballroom had gone dead silent. Every phone was up. WGRZ cut straight to live broadcast. The red tally light glared like an eye. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. These are just the things I could prove before I was 12, I said. I kept waiting for someone else to notice. Nobody ever did. Peyton launched out of her chair like a rocket. The navy sequined dress she'd chosen to look camera-ready ripped at the seam as she charged the stage. That's fake. She forged everything. You little. 2 security officers intercepted her halfway up the steps. 1 on each arm. She thrashed, hair extensions flying, mascara already streaking. Let go of me. Dad, do something. Travis hadn't moved. He just stared at the screen, mouth slightly open like someone had punched him in slow motion. Valerie tried to follow, shouting over the growing murmurs. Turn that off. This is defamation. We'll sue every single. Victor Langford was already on his feet, calm and precise. Actually, Mrs. Bennett Dawson, everything on that screen has been subpoena ready for 72 hours. Cornell Admissions received the packet this morning, courtesy of overnight FedEx. They issued a statement 20 minutes ago suspending review of Peyton's application pending investigation. He held up his phone so the nearest camera could zoom in. The Cornell crest was unmistakable at the top of the press release. Peyton let out a sound I'd never heard from a human before. Half scream, half animal. She twisted hard enough that one heel snapped clean off. "You ruined my life, you jealous little bitch." The officers lifted her off her feet and carried her backward down the steps. Her kicking legs knocked over a centerpiece. Champagne flutes shattered across the carpet. The cameras loved it. Every angle caught her red face, the ruined dress, the word liar forming on silent lips across the room. I clicked one last time. A single photo filled the screen, Peyton at 14, holding the broken silver locket, smiling straight at the hidden nanny cam Grandpa had installed in the hallway after the third accident. That was the day she learned breaking things and crying first usually worked, I said. My voice didn't shake anymore. It doesn't work tonight. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was thunder. Drivers who'd watched Peyton treat me like dirt for years were on their feet, whistling through their fingers. Someone in the back started chanting my name. Within seconds, half the room joined in. Grandpa wrapped an arm around my shoulders again. Grandma kissed the top of my head in full view of every lens. Peyton's screams echoed all the way down the service corridor as security removed her. Valerie stumbled after them, clutching her purse like a shield, tears cutting tracks through her foundation. Travis stayed in his chair, staring at nothing, until two officers gently escorted him out as well. The live ticker on Channel 2 already read, "Dawson Freight IRS exposed in college admissions scandal. Application suspended." I looked straight into the nearest camera and smiled, small but real. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered just loud enough for the microphone to catch. The ballroom exploded all over again. 5 years have passed and I just turned 17 last month. I live in the big brick house on Nottingham Terrace in Rochester with Grandpa George and Grandma Diane. My bedroom faces the lake. On clear mornings, I can watch the sun rise over the water the same way Grandma has every day for 50 years. The first thing they did after the gala was enroll me at Nichols School, the best private day school in Buffalo. I commuted the 75 miles each way for 2 years until Grandpa decided it was ridiculous and bought a second condo in the city so I could finish high school closer. I graduate in June with a 4.0 unweighted captain of the debate team and an early acceptance letter from Yale that arrived the day before Thanksgiving. I still see Dr. Patel every Tuesday at 4. 5 years of therapy have taught me that the scars on the inside take longer to fade than frostbite. Some weeks we just sit in silence. Other weeks I cry so hard I have to borrow tissues from the box she keeps on the table for me. She never rushes me. She never tells me I should forgive anyone before I'm ready. I'm still not. Valerie lost her branch manager job 3 weeks after the gala. M&T's corporate office cited reputational risk in the termination letter. She bounced between teller positions at smaller banks for a while, but the video of her screaming in that ballroom lives forever online. Last I heard, she was working the front desk at a Comfort Inn near the airport, living in a one-bedroom subsidized apartment off Bailey Avenue. Peyton never went to college. Cornell rescinded the suspension and turned it into a permanent denial once the full ethics report came out. She tried community college for 1 semester, dropped out, and now waits tables at a sports bar on Elmwood. She still dyes her hair the same fake blonde, still posts filtered selfies with captions about haters, but the comments are brutal. Some nights I scroll past them out of habit, then close the app and feel nothing. Travis filed for divorce 4 months after everything went public. The papers cited irreconcilable differences. The settlement was simple because there was nothing left to fight over. He kept the house on Delaware Avenue, but the mortgage swallowed most of his take-home pay once child support for Peyton ended. He lives alone there now. The driveway stays plowed because one of the old Dawson drivers does it for free, out of pity. 3 times a year, my birthday, Christmas, and the anniversary of the blizzard, an envelope shows up in Grandpa's mailbox with no return address. Inside is a letter from Travis, always handwritten, always starting the same way: Remy. I don't expect you to read this. I never do. Grandpa saves them in a locked drawer anyway, in case you ever want them. I don't. I cut contact completely the day the judge signed the permanent guardianship order. No visits, no phone calls, no accidental run-ins at Target. My new legal name is Remy Elizabeth Dawson. No hyphen, no Bennett. I had it changed the week I turned 16. The clerk at the courthouse didn't even blink. Some people think that makes me cold. Maybe it does. But cold is survivable. I learned that the night I almost froze to death on a sidewalk because the people who were supposed to love me chose a lie instead. Grandpa handed the day-to-day running of Dawson Freight Lines to a professional management team 2 years ago, but I still sit in on every quarterly board meeting. I can read a balance sheet faster than most adults in the room, and when I speak, they listen. The company is worth more now than the night of the gala. We added electric trucks, opened a second terminal in Albany, and just broke ground on a training academy for women drivers. My idea. My trust pays out a modest allowance that covers anything I could want, but I still work weekends in the dispatch office because I like earning my own money. Grandma taught me how to make her cinnamon rolls from scratch. We garden together in the summer, argue over which tomatoes to plant, and watch the Bills every Sunday in the same recliner Grandpa bought the year I was born. They never miss a debate tournament, never forget a therapy appointment, never once made me feel like I had to earn the space I take up in their lives. That is what family is. Not the people who share your blood by accident. Not the people who raise you out of obligation or optics. Family is the ones who drive through a blizzard to pull you out of the snow. The ones who rewrite their entire future to make sure nobody ever hurts you again. The ones who sit with you in silence when words aren't enough, and who cheer the loudest when you finally stand up and speak. I still have the silver locket. Grandma had the glass replaced and put a new picture inside the 3 of us on the dock at the lake cottage last summer. Wind in our hair arms around each other, laughing like nothing in the world could touch us. Nothing ever will again.